ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to talk about the game that you have on the screen right now. Because Ananta has, without a doubt, blown a lot of the gacha space away with its first bit of news in the past 24 hours, right? They've gone ahead, they released a gameplay trailer. It looks amazing, it looks awesome. There's like great stuff going on over here. A lot of interactivity, a lot of comedic relief, a lot of very cool mechanics like this one over here where you're like switching characters and now you're shooting people after getting stuck up. It looks awesome. But that isn't the only piece of news that the Ananta team has blessed us with as of late. They've got more. Because apparently, from this translated article that you're seeing on the screen from Famitsu, Ananta apparently has specifically, and this is the key word, guys, no character gacha. It's not at the level of, without slipping, all playable characters can be welcomed as long as you play. I don't feel like a lot of people have been up to date with how Ananta was going to monetize, what type of game it was actually going to be. A lot of people just knew that it was going to be like a competitor to NTE, and it was really going to have the GTA vibes. They have 1000% fulfilled those promises of being that NTE competitor and having 100% GTA-oriented vibes. The thing is, though, I think I actually know what's going on over here. And people that are going to go ahead and think that this is going to be like the most free-to-play friendly game ever might be in for a bit of a rough surprise. It's no joke at all, right, that the gacha space has been positively receiving news about games that are doing things like dropping the 50-50 system completely, like NTE, or like Duet Night Abyss, removing the character gacha completely, the weapon gacha, and then, making all the stuff grindable in the game. However, I think Ananta's actually completely different. And from what we're seeing over here, it might even be way more GTA inspired than we had originally thought. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I think that this is going to be a very story-based game. And these characters that you're seeing over here, right? You're not going to unlock them. You'll just like meet them in the story. And then the customization that's actually going to be occurring will likely be a lot more focused around, let me just go find it. Stuff like this. And you want to know another game within this genre where you can go ahead, buy new clothes for your characters, right? Spend resources, do all of this customization. It's literally GTA. And so the viewpoint that I have is that, yes, there's not going to be a character gacha. That's pretty clear. They're not going to have that. But there's a reason why you kind of only see this character, right? You only see, obviously, the main character as well, and that little, midget with the white hair down here. They actually have like a really good showcase of exactly the feature that I'm talking about. So you see over here, right? You got the character switch function. I think that like these are all the playable characters in the game. It's not going to have a particularly wide roster. So I'm just thinking that these guys are all naturally met in the story. You get like a crew of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, probably 3 max, to go on you with, or to meet up with you and then accompany you on like those story missions. But this is the thing. I don't think the roster of this game is going to be large. I don't think it's going to be that big. I think that you're going to have new cities that you can go to, right? New expansions, that sort of stuff. And then you meet like a new group of people, but they're all just going to be unlocked right off the rip. And I don't really think, especially based off of how I've seen the combat in the game, it might feel like all the characters actually play the same. Because what we're going to notice over here is I'll show you a bit of a combat showcase from within the demo. And what you'll be able to see is this is one character they use their fists as well, so that's one weapon. They also have the tennis racket or the badminton racket over here. Then they have this hammer as well. That's 3. Golf club, that's 4. Guns, RPG. It really seems like the characters might not actually have like specific kits or anything like that. It literally looks like every character is just going to have access to a bunch of different weapons. And then from there, right, a bunch of different weapons. And then maybe weapons are the stuff that there's like a gacha on. All of that. But everyone's going to have access to all the same tools. And then the main customization that you have is what the characters look like. I don't think that this is necessarily an issue. I don't think that this is a problem. I think that having like a bit more of like a limited cast of characters, everybody's free, you've got baseline customization, and they all kind of have like the same attacks. I don't think that's really that much of an issue. But the thing is, if you're looking for a gacha title, I do think that this game might like really throw off what some of the expectations of people, the expectations from some people in the space, right? This is not like Duet Night Abyss, where Duet Night Abyss is launching with like 30 characters on the roster. They all have unique kits. They all have different weapon specialties. You know, they all have like different skills, stuff like that. Maybe these characters will have those. Maybe like minor boosts, right? Like how in GTA 5, Trevor has like his rage mode. Michael has the slowdown while shooting. And then Franklin, right, gets the time slowdown when he's driving his car. Maybe they'll have like some minor stuff like that that's usable in the overworld, but I don't necessarily feel like we're going to get like fully fleshed out, completely different kits like you would in a game like Duet Night Abyss, or like you would in, you know, like literally any gacha. And just as like further reinforcement of the idea that the characters are going to function probably more as like MC skins with a special ability or two, when you go onto the Ananta website right now and look at the character menu, you've actually only got about 4 of them available. You've got Captain, Taffy, the Paimon sounding one, Richie, who of course we saw a lot in the trailer with the tail, and then Seymour, the guy that I don't know why he has that mask on, but that's it. So you got 4 of them showing up currently right now, with, I would imagine, more showing up in later versions when the story's focused on them. But this is why I'm giving the take of this game not having a character gacha kind of feels like it doesn't really mean anything, because it doesn't really have that many characters in the first place. It almost wouldn't make sense for any of these guys to be on a gacha at all. I would just hesitate to really make any crazy claims about, oh, Ananta's going to be the best free-to-play game ever. Oh, this is going to be like a gacha with like, you know, a bunch of different characters, or like this is just basically a free gacha where every character is going to have a super unique kit and do like a bunch of different things. I think this is literally going to be like GTA in terms of what the characters are, where in GTA, right, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor basically play exactly the same in the overworld, aside from like some of their baseline abilities, but everything else is identical between those 3. And from what I'm seeing in Ananta, seeing the character have access to, in this menu, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 different weapons. I don't really know. It feels like these characters are more like skins for the gameplay, and then you can have additional customization and maybe a unique ability or two on top of it. We don't have a lot of details. I don't want to make wide sweeping broad conclusions, but I could also say this is a little bit deceptive in the marketing. If it is really just like GTA, I think the marketing is a little bit deceptive, right? Because when people are thinking about a gacha with no gacha, they're thinking about like Duet Night Abyss, where all of the characters, once again, have unique kits, unique abilities, all of that, fully fleshed out. While this, the characters look like skins of the MC, at least from what I've seen so far. I don't want to make any generalizations just yet. So I do think that there's a bit of a catch here. I do think that this is something that needs to be explored further, because specifically in this title, another thing that I want to hone in on, it has no character gacha. I think it's pretty intentional that it says over here, explicitly character, because, well, look at this menu over here, right? If the characters are just skins of the MC, it would make a good bit of sense for things like cars, clothing, weapons, so on and so forth, right? It would kind of make sense for those to be potentially from a gacha. Maybe they're paid. But I do think it's a little bit sus that it says specifically no character gacha. Then we see in the gameplay over here an MC using 8 different weapons. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing actually differentiating a character from another character in the gameplay. Like, you see all the gameplay over here, right? There's nothing that makes any of these individual characters actually stand out. And if there was, I feel like it would be in the trailer. I could be entirely wrong about this, right? You can see a gold weapon bar. This looks like a common weapon, the claver. blue. Then you got purple for the SRs. And then you got the gold flamethrower for the SSR weapon. So, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Maybe some CCs that have been making some kind of early takes on the specifically No Character Gacha. Maybe they gotta go back and rewatch some parts of the video. Because I've been seeing a lot of talk, a lot of motion about how this game's gonna have no gacha at all completely. Then I see gold SSR weapons and SR purple weapons and blue common weapons. And then in the article that everyone's referencing where it has no gacha anymore, it specifically says no character gacha. Maybe these are craftables. Maybe all those CCs, I haven't watched their videos yet. Maybe they've gone ahead and they've talked about this as well. But I do think, like, this whole no character gacha focus and then seeing purple, gold, SSR, SR weapons is... That is some interesting marketing. I will tell you that, right? Because a lot of people are riding the hype off of that whole Duet Night Abyss, no gacha. I don't think it's even slightly similar. I don't think it's slightly similar at all. And there might be some people that are getting the definitions a little bit mixed up. Because no character gacha here, I think we're slowly beginning to figure out what it means. So I would expect monetization for this game to mainly exist through things like the weapons. The characters look like skins of the MC that will have access to all the weapons. And of course, right, they should also have access to probably premium clothing that you're going to be able to get from potentially pulling on another gacha or through some kind of like cash shop or, you know, premium outlet over there. I may be just like reading into this whole specific no character gacha too much. But this also tells me only characters have no gacha, but everything else is up on the table for having gacha and having monetization and that sort of feature. My final take on this issue is wait and see, and definitely don't draw any conclusions and do not make any comparisons if you want to be taken seriously without having the full details to games like Duet Night Abyss or even like really any gacha game that's on the market right now. Because we need more details. I want to know why there are SR weapons, why there are common weapons, why they have SSR ones. I want to know if the gear, let's be honest, guys, there's SR gear. There might be legendary gear as well. It might all be bought in the shop, right? Even the weapons. Maybe all of this stuff is bought in the shop and all you're buying are like skins for the weapons. This is the thing. This title doesn't say no character and weapon gacha. This title doesn't say no gacha. It's specifically character only. So let's take it a bit slow. Let's not let the hype get too crazy, because one thing we don't want is people going in with the expectation that they can unlock everything in the game for free outside of skins and then have one of the rudest awakenings ever when you can't use this flamethrower unless you spend $300. Because that could be the future. That could be the case if there's a weapon gacha. And I'm just going to be honest with you, right? If you go in thinking you're going to get all this stuff for free and then it's going to cost you $300 to use this flamethrower, you're going to be kind of fucking mad. That's what I would imagine. One last additional thing that I'll mention here while we're on the weapon wheel is these weapons also have durability. We don't know if this is going to be durability that you repair from like spending the game's regular currency. We don't know if this is like something that gets refreshed after every mission so that you're incentivized to pull multiple weapons to be able to clear a mission. There's not a lot of details out on these systems. And I feel like once we have more details on these systems, we can truly see just how predatory or how player-friendly the monetization is. But drawing conclusions now and saying this is like God's gift to gacha players, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I just want people to temper their expectations until we get some more news, because you could be in for one of the rudest awakenings possible. This is like an analogy I always like to use. Drinking vodka is something that you can do. Right? It might take some practice, but most people can take a sip of vodka and there's not really an issue. However, if you think you're sipping water and then you end up with vodka in your mouth instead, you might immediately vomit. Imagine you're super thirsty. You take a sip of something, or you take a chug of something, and you think it's water, but it's actually vodka. You'll end up throwing up, choking, doing all of that stuff. And this is the situation over here. I don't want people thinking this is going to be like Duet Night Abyss, same, like, you know, absolutely no monetization anywhere outside of skins or, you know, purchasing things directly. They think it's water. And then they end up getting vodka when they had to pay $300 for, you know, an SSR weapon. That's just my final take. Again, I'm very hyped for this game. I think it looks amazing. I think it looks awesome. I love, like, the design of the story, the driving, the missions, all of that. But I'm not going to go ahead and praise it as God's gift to gacha, or that it doesn't have gacha at all. That'll be that for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought. Peace.